For our 2020 Emmy Contenders event today, we're talking to several of the top showrunners in all of Hollywood, and Bruce Miller is an Emmy winner already, winning Best Drama Series for the first year of The Handmaid's Tale. Season 3 was the most recent that we've seen. And Bruce, the key art this year was Wake Up America, which couldn't be more relevant in so many ways, not even beyond Handmaid's Tale. Why that concept, and why that approach for Season 3?
Well, it's interesting that the concepts for the ad campaigns really come from Hulu and MGM, and it's an expert process because they really get to look at a lot of the show. So there is a conversation that goes on between me and them about what does it mean, what I put in and what they're taking out. So it's always kind of my first illumination of what the season is about. When you sit down with a bunch of people, they go, "This is what it's about." But I think that the part of the novel, The Handmaid's Tale, and we're always going back to the novel. We try not to get too far away from the part of the novel that's the scariest is, the way Gilead happened, and that it was people were sleepwalking and not paying attention to the things around them. So I think in the same way that the book seems to be a clarion call for action in every generation, that's what we were trying to do this season with the show, which was saying, look at how these things happen, look at the genesis of these things, and then look around your world and make sure those things aren't happening around you.
Well, when you just started this 3 seasons ago, many things you thought were completely fictional have now come to pass. What do you feel about the fictional versus nonfiction world that we live in?
I feel pretty terrible about it. I honestly would very much prefer to be writing Handmaid's Tale and everybody's saying that would never happen. You're writing a ridiculous program. It doesn't have any business being on. Why would you ever think those things could occur? That would make me very happy to have my show move into irrelevancy, because thinking of things like that and writing cautionary tales and writing tales about people in extremis, part of why you're doing that is to hope that it's a cautionary tale so it doesn't happen. It's sickening when you think of the worst thing you can think of, and then you come back a year later and that's what's happened. It's not a good feeling, and it certainly doesn't feel good to be right. I'd much rather be wrong.
One theme among all of our showrunners on the panel today is a female voice to the show, Elizabeth Moss being your lead character, but you and your team have made sure that female directors, female writers, female producers, female craftspeople. Of course, you've got an incredible cast led by a lot of great women and good men too. Tell us about that female voice of the show.
Well, the show requires a female voice, and I think referring back to something Damon Lindoff was saying, that you don't want to mess it up. The book is so affectionately seen. You don't want to mess that up. And so I think part of it was, I want to have the voice in the book be the voice of the show, and it's a woman's voice, and it's not my voice. And so I think the first thing you try to do whenever you get a job is to fill in the places you're weak. And I don't know what it's like to go through the world as a woman. Luckily, we don't just have Elizabeth Moss as a star, number one on the call sheet, but also she's been an EP with me since, basically since the beginning. She's such an integral part of the show. So I think that it's essential that a show like ours have a predominantly female voice, a predominantly female eye. As many of our department heads are women as we can possibly find. I think it's just essential to the storytelling, and I think it's borne out in kind of the way there's a different way that it looks at women and women's bodies and women's emotions, and through the eyes of a female director, through the eyes of a woman DP. I mean, it's just, we're so used to one point of view that we assume that that's the point of view of cinema, but that's just been the point of view of a white guy behind the camera, and it's interesting to see where a woman points it.
We can see what Elizabeth Moss brings you on camera, but what does she specifically bring you behind the scenes?
A couple of things. It's hard to. I'm very close with her, and I she's a remarkable woman, and I respect her a lot. A lot of what I get from her is real support as a person, as an artist. I mean, the idea of someone who supports you in going wide afield, trying really hard, trying interesting things. I think, the thing that she brings most is experience. I mean, she's been in I think she's been in SAG for 30 years, and she's a 35-year-old woman. So longer than any of us. So I think that even though she hasn't been in a producing role, she has such experience seeing so many different people produce. It's that level of professionalism that she brings, and really it was the thing that kind of informed the way we cast. All of our cast members are that way. It's a show of total pros. Everybody does their work, and so although it feels like it could be difficult on set because of the heavy material, Lizzie is really the leader in keeping it professional and light. I would say it's a fun set. These are great actors who are doing very good work, and Lizzie, I think as a manager on set, brings something remarkable that is definitely her, but also definitely female, definitely a woman's management style.
Last time I talked to her, I said, "You're a good luck charm on these drama series at the Emmys," because she had Mad Men, of course, and she had West Wing, she was on quite a bit. She was even in the pilot of Picket Fences when it won Best Drama Series. So
I didn't
I
know
think
that.
wherever she goes after *Handmaid's Tale, some wise producer is going to bring her on board as well.
Well, she isn't lucky. She's just exceedingly good. So yes, anybody anybody who gets her on their show, I only give them, they very, very lucky people.
You give her a high recommendation to somebody.
Extraordinarily. She's a very good human being and a lovely friend, in addition to being all the other things that she is, which is just, the best actor I've ever seen up close. I mean, it's just the most amazing thing it's like magic.
Well, speaking of West Wing, her former co-star Bradley Whitford joined you the season before as a guest star, and this last year moving into supporting actor, and won for guest star last year at the Emmys. To nobody's surprise, his character is different than the other commanders. He's got this conflict within him, it seems. What tell us about developing that character as a new person on the show?
Well, it was interesting because we're developing a character that isn't in the book. So out of the commanders that we've known, this is a new one. And so we were able to introduce him at the end of season 2, but really in season 3 with Bradley and Elizabeth together. In season 3, that's where the character really came to life. And I think we're always looking for someone who represents a different point of view. I mean, we've met true believers. We've met people like who feel like the rules are for people beneath them. And I think that Lawrence is an idealist. He's a academic, and it's a very shocking thing to see your argument turned into reality. And so I think that that's what he's dealing with is the intellectual versus the real, and his moral compass. He doesn't have so much of one, but the one he does have, it bothers him. It bothers him that what he thought would work did work, but was so destructive to humanity. But it did work. I mean, the people are getting pregnant. The environment's recovering in Gilead. Unfortunately, it worked.
You've personally had 3 writing nominations that are in a row at the Emmys. Season 1 was Offred. Season 2, Part 1 was June. Season 2, Part 2 was Holly. That's why there's been 3 and only 3 seasons. But we're all wondering what you might be submitting yourself for writing this year.
It's always difficult when you're in a showrunner's position, because I love all the scripts, and you don't know which one to send in, and there's some that are very, very special for different reasons. I think I submitted the finale this year, just because in some ways, with the show being so long ago, I'm concerned that people might not remember kind of the scale and scope of it, but they would remember the end, and it was a difficult episode to write, and Mike Barker did a beautiful job directing, and Lizzie was astonishing. So the nominations, very grateful. I mean, I didn't quite realize how important it was. You really do feel like it's your peers, and I know that's a strange thing to say, but you look out at the Writers Guild, at the Emmys, and you actually know a lot of people. You've worked with them, they fired you, you've hired them, you know, you've gotten recommendations from them, they helped you when you were crying under your desk. And it isn't just writers, and especially at a time when we're really trying to bring our community to bear to solve some problems. It's astonishing to feel that community, and when they kind of say, oh, your material was, we really respect what you did. It's hard to describe how much that meant to me, and I didn't expect it. And every time I get a nomination after that, there's something wonderful about feeling like people who you respect look at your work and say, huh, that was pretty good. So that part of it, I think is a little bit missed, because the audience kind of thinks of all, there's a whole bunch of actors who they've seen before and a whole bunch of people they haven't seen before, and how does it all mix? But we're much more of a community than I think the outside world thinks about us, especially at times like these, COVID, and with all the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff. So I think that that bodes well, but also, it allows you to write better if you feel supported by your community. I can push harder. I can write things that are maybe a little more chancy and crazy. So when you get a nomination, I think what you're supposed to do is use it to try to push yourself. The next season, what you really want is for them to go, "Oh, that was terrible." You really want to push so far that you scare them. So I'm thrilled and very, very grateful, and I hope it continues the rest of my career.